Hey everybody, this is a new show on this channel. Funny enough, coming out before our main content, the Vidiots. But welcome to Critiots, our D&D talk show where we just kind of talk about whatever we want D&D related. We'll have new D&D content coming out whenever we feel like it. The first few videos we're going to do are going to be more based on like the DM or player books, seeing who would want them, who would want to use them, and is it worth getting? So right off the bat, we're going to start with a big one because it is basically the book that everybody should have. I'm not even going to wait to the end to talk about this, the Player's Handbook. Do you agree that basically every person should have this?
Yes.
The one thing I can say there, I don't think it's necessary to get started. That is the one thing I will say. I don't think you need a Player's Handbook to start playing D&D. But if you really want to get into the game, want to know what you're doing, I'll say I started playing D&D with you 2 years ago, maybe three now. And I had no idea what I was doing. Isaac was DMing, and I just knew that I had a character in mind because he had asked me to play. I was going to play Stevos the Wise, very fabulous wizard in the colors of pink and teal, and I had no idea where to begin. Isaac basically put the Player's Handbook in front of me and said, "Here you go," and I had no idea what I was doing. So to just put it in front of a player is a little daunting. Yeah. I will say that. What do you have to say about the Player's Handbook?
Well, it has a lot of good content in it for everybody, meaning that the DM should probably, memorize as much as possible of this so that you don't have to be looking up every rule all the time.
I agree. I'm looking at this more as I think we've both been players and DMs. You've DM'd more and I've played more, but I did do about a 9-month campaign plus a couple little small ones, and so from a player's standpoint, it's just got basically everything, in my opinion, that a player needs to play the game, short of equipment like dice. The races, it's all just straightforward, in my opinion. Probably I've never played another edition of D&D, so I don't know how it stacks compared to like 3.5. I don't know if you've looked at that book.
Yeah. So it has a lot less options, but in the same sense, it doesn't feel to me like it has less options. It's all about knowing how to customize your character to get the result you want.
I think that's probably a good way of putting it. Plus, it has just basic information in there. You know how much armor is going to cost. You know how much weapons are going to cost. You know what stats are going to go where for your characters. Honestly, if I wanted to make, and I've done this, if I wanted to make just a Dragonborn monk, I could put together a character in probably less than an hour using this book. And that's thinking of everything. That's rolling stats, that's
picking
equipment, all that stuff. Whereas I feel with some other books, I've looked a little bit at I think the version 4 handbook.
Yeah.
And I will say it's probably hard to transition into another handbook, though I don't know personally.
5e is really easy to get the hang of it if you have played 3.5 or Pathfinder or 4e. Doing the opposite and going reverse might be a little difficult. 5e is a lot more basic. The thought process behind it, I believe, is that they wanted it to be more available for everybody, which, they've done a very good job of.
I want to say the one other tabletop RPG that I've played that I've looked at not even played, but looked through the handbook and made a character from was Starfinder.
Starfinder, which is based off the Pathfinder rule set.
And it was really
complex.
It was a lot more complex. I will say it wasn't a lot harder once I knew what I was looking at.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot harder to figure out, but I think anybody can look at this player's handbook and say, okay, give me 10 minutes to kind of... It gives a good... There's even... I really like the sample builds. It says if you want to... quick builds.
Yeah,
I really like those because it gives you an idea of where you want to put your stats. Even if that's not what you choose to go for, it gives you an idea, oh, a rogue is based on dex and...
charisma.
Or intelligence?
Or intelligence.
Might be intelligence, I'm not sure.
Both.
Both, yeah. So it's not perfect, and it does depend on your character that you're building. But I feel like that's another video.
Yes. We can go over character building some other time.
Yeah. Is there anything else, like, really... It does give you a sample of monsters, I think.
Yes.
Which is nice. So...
It's the other way. Oh, no,
I found it.
You're right there.
It gives you a sample of a few monsters in there.
The reason for at least half of them have to do with one of the rangers, which we'll be talking about in a different video.
Yes. Actually, I never thought about that. That makes sense. Why it's mostly animals.
Yep.
Although there are a couple...
Hey, look, an imp.
Yeah. There are... Like, I don't know if an imp would be a good example of that, but... pseudo-dragon. That's probably more for wizard.
Yep.
For a familiar.
Yeah.
The spell list in here, I will say, is a little daunting. There's a lot of spells to look through, and that is the one... It's not even a fault of this book. I don't know any other way you could print it and do it.
Yeah.
But I will say we have an app that has the spell book.
Highly recommended.
Highly recommended.
You can make multiple characters, spell sheets. You get to name them. You get to choose the race and class, what level you are. You can put your spell slots in. You can mark them as used when you use them.
And it's a free app. There are ads in it if you don't pay for it at all, but they're not really that distracting. They don't really bother you that much. I think if you just Google it and look up Dungeons & Dragons 5e spellbook, it's right there. And it includes all the spells out of this one, and I think most of them out of Xanathar's Guide.
And the Elemental Evil.
Well, I think most of the Elemental Evil is in Xanathar's Guide.
Oh, yeah.
I think. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong.
The only thing it's missing spells from is...
Yeah, there's a new... Mordenkainen's? Is that where the new book or spells are in?
No. I think it's Xanathar's.
Oh, there are some in Xanathar's that it doesn't have.
Yes.
The ones that were in the Elemental Evil that are in Xanathar's are in that app.
Yes.
The ones that are new to Xanathar's are not.
Like all the really cool...
Yeah, like I don't think... Is Armor of Agathis in there?
Armor of Agathis is a base spell.
Is it?
Yep.
Shows how much I know.
But there is a spell called... I think Shadow Moil, where you get to cloak yourself in shadows and it like obscures you, so you have advantage, or you have more armor class against ranged weapon. It's a cool spell.
Mm-hmm. And I know before we had the apps, before we knew about those, we used your spell cards, which went out of print and came back into a different print.
Yeah.
Because they got super expensive and hard to find for a little while.
I'm not a big fan of them. I liked them at first, but they didn't really make anything that much easier. It's just, instead of going through a book, you now go through the cards.
I mean, it was convenient that it was like, you had a stack of cards, these are your spells, you can kind of look through them. The only thing is, it took a little bit more planning. Like, you wanted to know you really needed to know what spell you were going to use before your turn came around. With the app, it's a little bit easier because you can see all your spells displayed on one.
Yep.
And because that is the one thing, you can't really flip through your book and do that. That'd be even worse. So that and like I said, I can't call that a fault of the player's handbook. I just think, because I think there's no other way you could really do it. Do we have any more major thoughts on the player's handbook?
No, not really. I mean,
It's kind of your go-to book for almost anything. Even I use this. This basically was my DM's book.
Yeah.
The only thing that it doesn't have is items, which is in another book. And even then, if you're making your own items, then you wouldn't really need it anyway. So, final thoughts, I would say yes, if you are serious about getting into D&D, not necessarily starting. If you're starting off, it's not necessary, but if you're looking into actually getting into D&D, Player's Handbook is
going to be essential.
Essential, I would say, yes. It is, to me, the most essential book to get. It is the most well-rounded. It is DMs use it, players use it, and that's basically it. So yeah, you're looking to get in D&D, Player's Handbook.